seated series, and we're going to work a little bit on the lower body. So why do we need to do that from chair? Because a lot of our working on the lower body is either kneeling or standing. Well, sometimes you just can't do it. You can't stand, you have to sit down, and you need to get a little bit of movement into your hips and your legs. And sometimes we actually are maybe disabled or abled in different ways, or we've had an accident and we may be confined to a seated position. So the reason I started doing this was really from travelling on train journeys, flights, etc., where they say get up and walk every 20 minutes and it's just impossible. So we need to find a way of just getting a little bit of movement in the lower body. And as usual, we're going to start by finding our seat, our connection with whatever we discover we're in contact with. I've just put my feet onto a block, which has taken my thighs a little bit away from being deeply connected into the edge of this chair, so I can get some movement through my feet, rocking back into my heels, and really just energizing the body, getting the circulation flowing back towards the heart. And you can join in with the hands. In fact, you could use some weights if that was something that was available to you. So I'm just pushing deeper into the balls of my feet, lifting my toes, spreading my toes, and coming even onto my tiptoes, just getting a real feeling of what's happening in the arches of my feet. And now I'm just going to stretch and lengthen my spine and rock a little bit so I can feel one sitting bone lift, and then I can take it out a little bit further and lift the other one, getting just a feeling of opening across the pelvis, a connection into those sitting bones, and still working those muscles through the feet and the legs and the calves. And I can really start to feel that now. So we're going to settle back, push down a little bit into the thighs and into the feet. Squaring off the hips, drawing the navel up, sitting up nice and tall. Okay, so now we're just going to see if we can just bring the foot up a little bit. Maybe bring the heel onto the knee, and you can feel that in your hip. Okay, if it doesn't quite reach there, maybe just bring that foot over the other. Okay, just feeling a little bit of movement in the hip joint. So we'll just find wherever we can place, and if you have brought the leg up, if you just lift the hips and rotate that hip joint. Okay, we don't want any strain in the knee or the ankle. And you may be able to just lift the heel and make a few little circles into that hip joint. Okay, whatever you can discover there, take the leg out, take it across, lift it up. If you can bring the heel up over your head without any pain, then go for it, but do it slowly, work with your body. We can let the leg rest there. I'm still working on my hip, not my knee, and even just lean a little bit into that leg. Remember, you can adjust as it starts to ease, softening into those tight hips. You may just take that a little bit further. Okay, even just rocking it out, leaning into the hip. It's a little bit like pigeon pose. You can turn and lengthen the ankle. Okay, just be careful that you're not forcing that knee or the ankle joint, you're just working into the hip. Okay, and just help the leg. Make sure the knee comes in, and then pop it down again onto the floor of your block. Let's just ease into those sitting bones again. And we'll explore the other side. So same thing, it could feel very different. We work differently with each side of the body, depending what we do with it. Any injuries, habits aren't always bad things, they're just the way that we get used to using our bodies. But we're always on an inquiry in our yoga practice, which is why it makes it so different. So as well as just making that movement into my hip, I'm really sort of having a conversation with my body, getting to know it, responding if it's saying that's a little bit too much, or maybe we can take that further. So I'm just seeing if I can get that little rotation into the hip. Again, maybe just lifting, seeing if we can discover anything in that lower leg, in the ankle. So a little relationship going on here between the heel and the hip. So sometimes if we work a little bit on one, the other responds. Okay, so maybe we can just see what happens if we put some more weight by bringing the body forward, feeling what's happening in the hip, trying to protect the knee, and flexing the foot, or lengthening the ankle. And we're up again, knee comes in. We find our centre, our spine, our sitting bones, keep that energy through the legs. And now we have a choice. We can use a belt, it could be a belt or a yoga strap or a tie, anything which has a reasonable amount of strength in it. But first of all, I'm just going to bring the knee in. I'm going to draw the thigh in and bring my ribs towards the leg. That means I can pop this belt just around the edge of the heel. So your strap or whatever you're using is really just an extension of your arms. And we're going to stretch the leg. Now, it might not want to stretch very much to start with, so I'd keep it low. Keep the arms lengthened. We don't want to bring those shoulders up to our ears. If it feels as though it's ready to stretch a little bit more, just walk your hands down and start to stretch the leg. You might just like to bend and stretch. Take it slowly until you feel a little bit of softening and lengthening in the back of the leg. A bit more flexible, you may just hold your big toe, and we're drawing our ribs forward, lengthening the leg. Okay, if you don't have a belt, you can always just hold your thigh, stretch the leg, play around with your feet. In fact, we could have a little bit of movement into the ankle, and then stretch that leg. Okay, and if you bend the knee, try to keep the foot still, you'll get a little bit of rotation in the knee. Not a lot. The knee needs to be bent to achieve that. Stretch that leg again. Exhale. Okay, you can do that as long as you feel that there's a nice feeling of opening at the back of the leg, and then bring the leg down. Same thing on the other side. So we can either hold the thigh or have the belt around the heel. Okay, we don't really want to flex the foot too much, so it's about lengthening the leg, which is why we find a nice firm connection around the heel. Lengthen the leg, bend, stretch. It's about lengthening, so if it means just bringing the leg up and there's a big bend in the knee, keep it low, just stretch that leg. You can't really stretch a leg, you have to strengthen the supporting muscle, the antagonist. So I can actually feel that in my thigh. And I'm going to draw the leg up a little bit nearer. Hold my toe or use my belt and give that leg a stretch. Keeping the shoulder down, bringing the ribs forward, and again hold that as long as you feel softening and opening in the back of the leg, and we bring the legs down again. So we've had quite a good stretch in those legs. Now again, this will not be for you if you need to look after your knees, but we can also bring the heel back. So I've got quite a lot of movement in the knee. I've got the heel outside of my thigh, and I'm just sitting down a little bit deeper into my sitting bones. And again, if you feel any pain in the knee, just don't do it. Carry on with those stretches. And of course, make sure the knee is back in place. We can repeat that on the other side. Okay, so I'm sitting down into the hip. I've got quite a big stretch in my thigh and in my ankle. And again, just being careful if I feel anything not too good in that knee joint. So we've done quite a lot of work there in our hips, stretching out our legs. And just finally, very simple, we're going to come out of the chair, onto our feet, and we're going to stretch, and then we're going to turn our chairs around if we can. Maybe we'll have to move if the chair's not going to move for us. We're just going to use the chair to stretch out the back. So if you want to come into a standing position, just make some room, and we're going to walk back, stretch our arms, pull back into our hips. Okay, keep the neck long, looking down, slightly forward. Let's push that chair away, pulling back into the hips, just walking the legs back. Try not to lean into the chair, unless of course you're trying to strengthen your arms, but that would be a different practice. So we're pulling up a little bit in our front, big stretch here. You can do this really quite nicely against a work surface. And now I'm going to bring one foot forward, bend the knee, looking forward, take the other leg back, and again push the chair away, drop into the hips, big stretch there. You can just play around with where you place your foot and your heel, just stretching out different parts of the legs. Okay, and change those legs over. Stretch here again into those thighs, so taking hold of the foot. Again, you might want to leave this one out if you're looking after those knees. So I've got a big stretch here. I'm not trying to go into an amazing balance or anything. I'm just going to bring that heel in, work into the thigh, lifting up. You might be able to draw the leg a little bit further back, but you'll certainly feel a big stretch in your hips and in that thigh muscle. Okay, so try not to sink too far back into the hips. Just drawing the leg back, heel towards buttock. finally, big stretch. Okay, you can hold on to your chair if you're a little bit wobbly at the moment. Namaste. See you soon.